Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Red State Coach. I'm your host, RJ Lundstrom, and I've got another special guest with me to here today. This is Roberto Bobby Estrella. And just to give you a little background on Bobby, Bobby was a track and cross-country star in high school. He went into the U.S. Army, and when he came out, he became an educator. First, he was an educator as a social studies teacher. Then he went into a chain of events that led him into administration. He and I started working together about 12, 13 years ago at Saguaro High School, and we were tasked with a lot of things. And Bobby and I went through some fire together with some administrative changes and things that happened, but we emerged on the other side, tested by fire. We developed a very close relationship, and I'm very thankful for that. Bobby's here today because, as Red State Coach does, we're all about making men better men and helping men navigate through the series of challenges that are out there as far as raising kids and being the type of leaders and mentors that we need them to be. And Bobby has raised two sons that are doing well and very successful. So without further ado, welcome, Bobby. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I appreciate the intro. And yes, I agree with the fact that the two of us have been tested pretty well. And we're battle hardened and battle buddies. And so I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. So, hey, first question that I need to ask you, you've got two sons. They're fairly close in age. They're very unique guys. What was the biggest challenge raising them from boys to men?
So when I think about that question, as far as the biggest challenge, I think the biggest challenge is my own maturity. I had Anthony pretty young, and so I wasn't fully ready yet. But life has a way to make you ready, and so when you have this 9 months of transition, and that really doesn't prepare you for anything until you actually see them. And when you see them, that transition slaps you right in the face, and so you grow up pretty quick. And so I think the biggest challenge is initially was realizing it's about them and not yourself, because I was, like I said, I was very immature at the time. Still immature. I'm still a goofball.
Yeah.
The second challenge is letting them be them, letting them make their own mistakes, letting them, when they're young and small and delicate, you don't want them to ever get hurt, but you gotta let them get scraped up a little bit. You gotta let them get dinged up. You don't want them to ever, you don't mind them scratching their hand a bit, but you don't want them to lose a digit. So you just gotta know when it's time to intervene and when not to intervene. And so you just that's the challenge as time went on. I think letting them make their own mistakes, learn from their own mistakes, and do what they gotta do so they can learn themselves.
Well, and I can relate to the, are you ready? I mean, you did it when you were young. I had my son when I was 30, and I still was kind of like, am I ready for this? And I had TJ on the other day, and he was talking about, he thought he was a little overconfident until his daughter, within the first few hours of her being born, she had a very poopy diaper, and his wife looked at him and said, look, I just went through labor, man. You need to take care of this. And he realized, oh my God, what do I do?
I love that.
So that's the total thing. I mean, are we ready? Yeah, we think maybe, and then we better be, because here it goes.
Yes, I agree with that. And I liked how you said, I don't think it would have made a difference if I was, 18, 19 or 29 or 39. I think the maturity thing would have still been there. And so I agree with that. And so what I love about your son's example is, eventually you learn pretty quick. You got to do what needs to be done. So and you're just like, oh, okay, it's my turn.
Amen to that. So what do you remember from your parents and how you were raised? And what are the things from that time that you incorporated into your parenting style? And what kind of things did you kind of say, no, not going to do that?
Well, here's what I can share. My mom and dad were very opposite when it comes to, I had the, it's like angels and demons. They're both angels, but don't get me wrong. My mom was the sweetest. She could be, I mean, she is the sweetest person you'll ever meet. She still is the sweetest person you'll ever meet. My dad was, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but my dad was a hard ass. And so, but both had a big heart. And so, seeing how that did, but I think the biggest thing is just watching them, how they ran their lives, watching how they ran their household, watching them, how they went to work, watching them, how they played with friends, but then reported to work, so I think the biggest thing that I have as my daily memory from them was just how much they worked. And so I really appreciate just watching them work. And, my dad was a mechanic. My mom worked at, in sales at the newspaper for most of the time I saw her. And so they worked hard at work. And when they came home, they took care of the house. I mean, she was always cleaning. She was always doing dishes, every Sunday, every Saturday, we're doing chores around the house. We're doing the weeds. We're doing something. And I'm tugging on, just trying to keep up. And I don't think I, to this day, still work as hard as they do. And so that's my biggest thing, just watching their work ethic. But boy, even though they both love me and they both showed me they love me. And I think
so what did you kind of cast aside in your parenting? Obviously, the instilling hard work with your kids and stuff was important. But what did you kind of say, I'm not going to do that?
I never spanked my boys, not once.
I'm with you
never
there.
Once. Not never once.
You and I probably got slapped around a little bit. And that's okay. That's right. The time of life that was in, and that's what our parents knew. But I think you and I both know that wasn't,
Well, if you knew me in my younger days, I mean, if you think I was weird now, imagine when I was younger. Anytime I was spanked, I earned it. So I did a good job earning that. I agree with that. But so I raised my voice at them from time to time. But even at that, I would say that when I talked to them, when I was really disappointed, really angry with them, it was more controlled than how I talked to them, and I feel like the tone was different than how I talked to them, so never got physical with them. And when I yelled, it was to get their attention versus like to just lay into them. And so with my mom, the thing I let go, as sweet as she is, I never let them get lazy. I didn't do the pobrecito, don't worry about it, you can work later. No, you got to work now. And so, if I were to go, I needed both of my parents, because my mom would let me, if I just did it the way my mom, she'd just let me sleep in all day. Don't need to do your homework yet. You can wait till you're more awake. There was, she'd sit there and let you be you. And that would not be good for my future self, so I did not do that either. And so with them, I made sure they got up every day, did their job, took care of their business. And they're both great kids. And so they respond to that very early. By the time Hayden became a sixth grader, I never had to tell him to do his homework. He would do his own homework. I never had to tell Anthony to do his homework, because he for a different reason, he knew the stuff like that. So academically, he didn't need to worry about the homework part, but he can do his work quickly. Whereas Hayden, he needed to do this homework, and that never, to this day, he's very regimental. And some of that's maybe because he saw us, and maybe, I don't know. Maybe he saw my parents, I don't know.
Well, you obviously set those expectations. I was the same way. I mean, TJ took care of business at school because he knew that's what was expected. So good for you. So you talked about maturity and not being, questioning that maturity and stuff. Thinking back on the age of maturity transitions for your boys from elementary to middle to high to college, and then to adulthood. How did you approach the way you dealt with your sons, and did your messaging change, or did that messaging stay consistent, but did you present it differently?
So when I hear this question, the first thing I think of is only a person who's had to do this themselves would have the insight to ask that sort of question. So kudos to you on that one. So, the part that was unchanging and still unchanging to this day, because I get to see them a lot as adults. I get to see them almost once a week. Almost. 1 second. I'm sorry. Got a visitor in the room. He might come across the screen, so I apologize.
That wouldn't bother. It's because he's there sleeping.
There you go.
Oh.
He's going to start
That'll be
messing
interesting for people to watch.
Exactly. So going back to the part that was unchanging, and I can still say this with great confidence now. Whoa. That's not cool what he's doing now. Get back. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to have to kick him out.
That's what edit's all about, man. I can edit this.
All right. Sorry about that. All right. No. So going back to that, the part I think about is the part that was unchanged. From the moment they were born, I loved them. And for the moment they were born, I knew I was going to be there for them. And so by the time they got conscious of that, what is unchanged is I think to this day, they still know I love them and they still know I'll be there for them. And so it just looks different on how you love them today versus how you loved them in the past. The second piece, what was hard for me, there are transitions, and you don't necessarily recognize, at least not me, I didn't recognize I was in a transition until like you're already at the tail end of that transition or the transition is already done, you know? And so what I think about as far as transitions is it was very easy for me to give them unsolicited advice. It is very easy for me to be very direct with them. And then for both, by the time they get to college, you know, some people might be in the teenage years. For my boys, it just happened in college. And so there's a point when you realize they don't need your unsolicited advice or their unsolicited suggestions, but be there and listen and be ready when they are asking for it. And so I think that's the biggest transition. It was at first, what happened with Anthony was a little hurt. Okay, he doesn't need me, but that's the point. You know, if you did it right, eventually they don't need you.
Yes.
You know, so that's what you want to do. So, you know, so you're very direct with them in the beginning. Even though I never spanked them, you're kind of physical. Like, don't you grab their shoulder or grab their arm, or so they don't cross the street when they're not supposed to. You have a talking moment, and then eventually you're no longer hands on and you're very verbal, and you don't give advice they don't want. But they know that you're there for them when they do need it. And so that's the important piece. I guess that's the way I would say that.
And I completely agree. And as you were speaking, I was being very reflective, and a lot of images of that process came to mind for me. You know, that's where I am. I mean, we both have adult children now, and we're there for them. But you know, they're running it now. They're running it. You know, we're not peers, and we'll never be peers with them. But that relationship is more along the line of confidant, mentor, friendly. You know, it's definitely different. And I think for me on the transition, it was, what responsibilities do I give? You know, initially that first responsibility, like you said, grab and hold and make sure they don't walk across the street. For TJ, it's like, hey, I'm going to go to the store. Here are the rules of when I'm gone. You don't answer the door to anybody that you don't know. And if someone calls on the phone, my dad's not available right now. Not that he's not home. You know, those are the kind of, you know, things that you need to do in terms of not only protecting them, but understanding what their responsibilities are. And then as they do the right thing and take the right responsibility, you know, take care of their homework, do the, you know, follow those established rules, you give them a little more and you give them a little more, you know, as they prove their worth. So I'm with you 100% on that. How that relationship changes is wild. So, um, and you kind of reflected on that, but I know these guys because I know both your boys, and they're very different. They're hilarious. They
Yes.
have incredible senses of humor, and they're just incredible guys, and they're both solid guys. So you did a great job, Bobby. There's no question about that. But how has your relationship with each of them changed? And how do you distinguish your approach with two very different personalities in terms of how you deal with them, now and as they were transitioning into adulthood?
It's very interesting. Yes, I agree. They both have lots of similarities in the sense that they both have great sense of humors. And I think that's from my dad's side. My dad had a funny sense of humor. I had kind of taken on parts of his sense of humor, and now they have that too. And what I've learned is that sense of humor, as we use it, and I now see them using it as adults, it truly is a coping mechanism. If anything, it's just they're laughing at themselves so they can see themselves better, and they can laugh at what's going on when they're stressed out. Well, I have a childhood friend who I'm still friends with who characterized the two of them and how different they are, but they're still similar. But he said it like this. He goes, Anthony, my firstborn, he is like Bobby when he's sober, and Hayden is like Bobby when he's been drinking. And so
Again, I know both those Bobbies too. So
yes,
that's
and then you know both of them. You get the sober Bobby way.
I can see that. Okay.
And the funny thing is that theory still holds today. So as adults, and so it's really interesting because they're two different men. They're two different individuals. They're two different. So I have a different relationship now than, they had the same rules, the same guidance, the same, expectations, but my relationship with both of them are different. Like Anthony, I don't see him as much, but I know he loves me. I know he cares about me, but he's out and he prefers to be out in the wilderness working out there. He's a mason in the forestry somewhere. And so he's more stoic. And so it's when I see him, lots of times we're not just opening up about stuff. We're just kind of talking like small talking. And eventually when he's ready to talk about something like enduring to him or something important to him, it floods. And so you just kind of wait for it. And if he wants to talk about something, you're there and he'll talk about it. Whereas Hayden, I see him more frequently and he wants to talk more frequently. He wants to share things more frequently. He wants to process things with you. Whereas Anthony wants to process things more in private. And so you wait for him to say, okay, are we going to just share each other's experience and just kind of share each other's and just visit with each other? Or we're going to share something that's more important to you? And you kind of let them decide, what they want to share, what they don't want to share. And I might ask some questions, but I try not to probe too much, but in both cases, they know I'm here for them when it's important. I want them to fly as close to the sun as possible because I want them to know that I'm here to catch them. And there's a lot of loved ones here that will be here to catch them if they do go too close. So I don't mind. Go reach. We'll be here.
That's interesting because, I get that. Hayden is much more open guy.
Yes.
He kind of wears his emotions on his shirt sleeve, so to speak.
In
There's
high
some
school, it'd be
things
on his
that he kind of
closed
holds.
legs.
Well, and he holds back a little bit, but he's kind of an open book. Anthony's very much. He's got to trust you in order to open up that book, and stuff. So, I think that's interesting that, and you certainly understand that dynamic. So that kind of talks about how the relationships change, and you kind of touched on that a little bit. Um, in terms of your communication with your sons now, um, do you wait for them to reach out, or do you kind of check in, or combination of both? You talk about seeing them, or at least speaking to them at least on a weekly basis. how does that conversation and that communication work? Are you probing, or you like waiting, or both? What's that like?
Yeah, it's more of a combination, but I definitely lean on me reaching out more often. So I'll check in, not to probe, but hey, just thinking of you. What's what's happening? What's going on with your work? Or am I going to see you this weekend? Or oh my goodness, did you see the Steelers quarterback situation? so we so there's topics that we enjoy. I'll talk to Anthony about a book he's reading, or a book I try to read that I can't catch up with him. And so with Hayden, it's sports, and so I reach out a lot. But I do also sit and see if they want to talk about something more serious than that. But my check-ins are more around what our shared interests are. And then if they want to talk more, things are going well for them. So I'm very fortunate that things are going well for them right now.
Right.
And so when things got a little dark for both of them in college a couple of times, it was I was happy that they knew they could reach out to me. But for the most part, I wait, but I also reach out and talk about things that aren't important.
And it's kind of off topic and stuff, but I'm curious. What role did faith play in this dynamic with your sons and stuff, in terms of how you conducted yourself? Was your faith in God something that was a factor in that? Did it develop over time? Is that an important element?
It's a centerpiece. I didn't pick them and they didn't pick me. We were paired by someone else. And so I knew that I was given the responsibility to raise them. That was assigned to me. And that's a very spiritual place. I also know that he made it very easy for me. So my boys they're easy boys. I could do the same things, have the same guidance, the same approach with someone different, and I'm not going to get the same results. So 90% of what happened is these guys are great kids, and they didn't need too much. And thank goodness, because God knew I didn't have as much in me. So that's it. He gave me the easy assignment.
Me too, man. Me too.
Yeah, so I get that. And so we got the two of us to understand that we've got two very easy assignments. So I'm very grateful for that, thankful for that, and I'm happy that I was assigned what I was assigned.
Oh, I get you. So, kind of the last question, and I ask this of everybody. So, I especially now that I know that I'm on the back nine of life. So these things are important to me now. And so it's important to me to hear from other people who are maybe not so much in my age bracket, but you're creeping up there. You're not too far. If I'm on the back nine, you're on number 9, and getting ready to make that curve. Okay. Legacy to me needs to be intentional, because if we're not intentional about our legacy, or at least conscious of it, it's being written regardless. But how do you want people like your sons, Tammy, your new extended family that you have in that situation, even the people that are close to your friends, what do you want them to be able to say that Bobby stood for, that this is who Bobby was to his core? And what would that legacy look like?
We may start off with the fact that I know that I'm on the back nine. I already admit that. I admit that
Well,
I'm
if
there.
you're
A
just
little
on the
something.
back nine, then I'm at number like 15. So okay, thanks for that.
I'm just letting you know I'm there. I just turned 53 today, so I'm there. I
Oh,
know that.
hey, oh my God, happy birthday!
Thank you. I enjoyed being here with you for that. So that's the fun part. Um, it's hard for me to talk about legacy, and again, this has to do with the way I was raised. My dad did not want us to think about those things because focus on the work and the legacy will speak for itself. Focus on what you're supposed to do. He's very stoic in that sense. Like, the hardest part is to figure out what is supposed to be done right now. Because once you figure that out, just do it. And so instead of being terribly reflective and get too caught up in legacy and how people think of you, how you want them to think of you, instead, he wanted me to be focused on, dude, do what you're supposed to be doing right now. There's time later to think about legacy. And so, but if I were to be pressed, I would hope that my family, my extended family, my blended family, my closest friends would first say, man, he was a person who cared about others a lot. And he is a person that would do whatever he could to help you, even if it's just to be there for you as you're going through whatever you're going through. I would hope that they think I was, if they can call on me if you needed him. And also you can call on him because he's skillful enough to help you get through it. It's one thing to bring people who are willing to come. It's another thing to bring people along and they can actually help you. So I hope that, that they see me that way. But then I might have turned the corner, but I'm not really thinking about writing my tombstone yet. So.
No,
Yeah.
and you're doing what I think legacy is you're not carving your name on a tombstone, you're carving your name on people.
Oof. I got to
And so
remind Tammy that when we go to our tattoo parlor.
there we go.
That's well
So
said. I know I make jokes about that, but that was well said. Thank you.
no, but I think you get it. It's you can because you can't control what people are going to think, but what you can control is the actions that are going to that you're going to be reflective on. And as you said, you want to be there for people, and I know you as a person of integrity and of high character. Those are the things that I know. And yeah, you're a screwball, and you're a you're a pain in my ass sometimes, and have been, and certainly have challenged me quite a few times, but all sometimes in jest, but with the touch of this is good for you. I'm helping you grow as a person and as a professional. I mean, I can think back to a number of times that, we sat in your office and, we didn't agree, but we talked, and I always felt like you had really good character, that the decisions and the discussions were to make us a better team and to make me a better professional. And that's all you can do. I mean, like when I asked TJ this question, he said he was in a conference and they were talking about goal setting. And the guy came up and said, here's my goal. I want to, develop my property, make it, do some renovations and put it on the market as an Airbnb and get someone in there by 6 months. And the guy said, no, that's not a good goal. You can't control what people do. Now, up to having someone in there, those are great goals. Yes, you can buy the property, you can renovate it, and you can put it on the market. And that's a great goal, but you can't control what other people are going to do. You can control the inputs. You can't control the outputs. And I think that's where you were going with that, is that I'm going to do what's before me, and I'm going to do it with good intention and to the best of my ability, as you have done with your boys to this point, I mean, and so that speaks to me as, you get it, man. You're on your way, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate both those parts. Like the way I agree with everything you said about, just focusing on what needs to get done and how you deal about doing it. And I also appreciate that last little piece you threw in there of saying you're on your way, because we're not done. We may have we're on the back nine, but we're not done yet. If we were done, we'd be gone. So,
right.
So there's still things to be had. We still have a purpose. We just hope that purpose doesn't slap us in the face and pull our hair like it did in COVID. But, so yes.
Oh my God.
But again,
yes.
I could go back to what you said about the challenging. I think what made us work really well is that we both checked our egos out the door when we had those conversations. And I felt like you were very comfortable challenging what was the decision or what pathway we were taking. And I really appreciate it. Like you said, you may not have always changed my mind, but there were some critical pieces where you did, and it turned out great. You know what I'm saying? If I would have kept going where I was going, I'm not going to bring up any examples, but if we would have gone in the direction I was thinking we were going to go, if it wasn't for that conversation you gave me, or you feeling comfortable enough to challenge me or challenge the thought that was coming out, and if we didn't make that would have been a really bad mistake in some of those cases. We both know some great examples on that one. So that's important too. So I hope them, when people are working with us, they know that they can speak their mind and they can, they're comfortable presenting an opposing view without feeling like we're going to hurt each other's feelings or we can't talk to each other after that just because I don't agree with you. So
no. Yeah. I mean, that was never the factor. And as much as that was important in terms of running that school and doing what we did there, the personal part of it was probably even more impactful and more important in terms of not only developing our relationship and our friendship, but just the trust. And, because we went through some rocky times, but we were committed to getting through those.
Correct.
And that, I think, speaks volume to the things that we were able to do together, and hopefully aren't finished doing, even though I'm not there anymore. So that's great.
It has to be done in a different arena.
Yes.
A different arena. That's all. That's it.
Well, again, should have got that. Oh, I did get the notification now. That it is your birthday. So, a little late on the notification. Thank you, Apple iPhone. But happy birthday. Many more, obviously, and I hope you have a fun day today. I don't know if you've got stuff planned. I'm sure people have things planned for you.
They do.
But have a great day. Bobby, thanks for doing this. This is, as you know, this was my dream for the next phase. And
absolutely.
And these are the things that I want to do. I think it's important for guys to hear this kind of stuff, and even women to hear this kind of stuff about, we need good men in the world, and we need good men that are well-adjusted, going to be leaders, solid kind of people. So if this, I'm hoping this helps people or whatever. I just know it's a message that needs to get out there. So thanks for being here today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you inviting me, and I appreciate you taking the risk and going this direction with this. And I wish you
I didn't know how this would turn out. So, I mean, I was kind of like, okay, what Bobby am I going to get today?
I have a little board here. Don't say X, Y, Z. We're talking about these topics, and definitely don't refer to this moment and those jokes. Stay away from these jokes.
There we go.
But I'll share those jokes with you privately later on, though, real soon. And thank you for having me with you. And good luck to you. I wish you all the best.
Well, and those will be necessary to hear. All right, so I'm going to probably sign off here pretty soon. But before I go, just want everybody out there who's listening, and I hope you are, remember the Red State Coach podcast. You can get it on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. go to redstatecoach.com. We've got great swag in our store and some good blogs for some different information. And it's just a good site. So redstatecoach.com and the Red State Coach podcast, again, on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Thanks for being here, Bobby. Have a great birthday and a great day, man.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.